Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien. I'm in my backyard again doing another comic book countdown, counting down the 9 comics I got from a new comic book day on Wednesday, and being extremely subjective and fickle about the order I put the comics, counting down from my least favorite number 9 to number 1. It is super humid, at least for Portland today. For Western Oregon, this is odd weather. It's cloudy, it's 93 degrees, and the air feels thick and just makes you feel blah. I was drinking a beer back here, and I just wasn't even enjoying the beer because of this weather. So I switched to a very watered down iced coffee. So, it was an okay week. I guess I was kind of grumpy about some of these comics. So let's start in with number 9, which is a brand new Boom Studios book written by Tom Taylor, art by Danielle Di Nicuolo. And I put it at number 9 not because there was anything bad about it at all, but I just didn't care a whole lot. And there's a lot of kind of vagueness that you're supposed to buy into and assume there's a real story behind it. Like this concept that there's 7 secrets and each secret is being guarded by 2 people who devote their lives to it, and there's some secret organization that trains them and monitors them and makes sure they're guarding the secrets, and there's other people also equally vague who I guess are trying to steal the secrets. I could see how this could be a really cool concept, but it's all in the execution, right? And the execution, which surprised me because I've always thought Tom Taylor was very good at storytelling. The execution is just not very compelling. And it's all narrated, which I guess is the most interesting thing, by the baby never seen by the 2 parents, because the 2 parents were supposed to be guarding secrets and they're not allowed to have personal lives or children or anything. So somehow he's found out about his parents and is narrating after the fact. And I think half of what made this maybe number 9 for me is the artwork. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but in particular the coloring just kind of did not work on the page. Maybe it looks great on a computer screen. It had that effect of making everything look like it was a cell from an anime and then printed on the page, and it just doesn't look quite right to me. Maybe people who've grown up watching anime as their favorite kind of TV might, really enjoy this, I guess. Or maybe fans of real anime would tell me, no, that doesn't really look like anime. But anyway, that was kind of my reaction to it. There's some neat effects. I like the lettering and the zooming there and stuff like that. So it's not a horrible comic. I guess, if I didn't have so much else to read, I might have gone on to see what Tom Taylor's up to. I did think it was interesting. It says created by Tom Taylor and Danielle Di Nicuolo down there, right there in the credits. But then in the tiny print, it says copyright 2020 by Tom Taylor. So it's interesting to me, just with all the rights of creators and everything, that for whatever reason Tom Taylor is the sole holder of the copyright. I think often with Boom, maybe not with Boom, but with some of these smaller companies, the creators and the comic book company will own the rights together. But I'm no expert on that. But I do kind of think about this when I'm reading comics about who owns them. So interesting that the artist is credited as co-creator, but not under the copyrights. Maybe some other people will be reading this and tell me and make me think in 2 issues that I should jump back onto it. It's certainly not beyond the possibility there. And it's a nice little package. It does make me, this is the first time I've read anything independent from Tom Taylor. Maybe he does better at Marvel and DC, where he's done excellent work, when the characters already exist and have a backstory and everything to them. It's the filling in the background which I think is important in a first issue that he doesn't do much here. Although maybe, I'm going back and forth, maybe if a different artist carried it off differently, maybe I would be in there for the whole ride. In at number 8 is Wonder Woman 760. I do not like this kind of cover. I love to have a logo. I love a cover that has a bit more of a sense of story to it. This is by it's a variant cover by Josh Middleton, I believe, who I know some people are big Josh Middleton fans, but it just leaves me cold. Joshua Middleton is the variant cover. And this is the trick DC does now of these thicker covers, cardstock, I guess you'd call it, with no logo, and you pay an extra $1. And this is what was in my pull box, and I went to the shelves to look for the regular cover, both to save money and because I would prefer it, and it wasn't there. So I guess this is all they got from their distributor. I'm not sure how that works. It's not Diamond anymore, but whoever it is, Luna or whatever, do they decide how many copies to give the store of each kind of cover, or did my store make that decision? Anyway, I also read the previous Wonder Woman. I finally got a hold of this one, 759, which was sold out at several stores, but my shop ordered it for me, so I got these two at the same time and read it. 759 is the first issue of the new creative team, so maybe the new creative team has created some interest and Wonder Woman's selling out. I wonder how long that'll last for, because it didn't do a lot for me, although one of my favorite DC artists is Mikhail Janin, who does the art here. He's worked on Batman, and before that Grayson. I would keep him on Batman or Superman, but I guess Wonder Woman, could be a A-level book. The new script writer, not good at pronouncing her name. Is it here in the credits? Tamaki, Mariko Tamaki, is that it? She recently won an Eisner for something, and she wrote Being Supergirl, which was quite good, and I feel like there's some other comic I've read by her. But despite the great art, I feel like she doesn't have a great idea of what to do with Wonder Woman, which seems to be this continual problem, except, during my favorite Wonder Woman, which was during the New 52, there's just no real concept. She just kind of falls back into being kind of a generic superhero whose main quality is she's female and has a positive femaleness about her, which is not a bad starting point, but so we get a lot of, between the relatively standard action scenes and mystery of who the villain is, which is all done okay, there's nothing bad about it at all. We get a few cute scenes between Wonder Woman and this young girl she's befriended, where the young girl seems to just live by herself with a bunny rabbit. It's a bit odd and just doesn't feel very fleshed out. And so Wonder Woman just feels like she inhabits kind of an empty world with little signifiers of her past, maybe. But it's not a horrible comic book. If you just want some fun superhero stuff with Wonder Woman, it's not bad. I'll probably continue to get it for a while and see if Tamaki gets a grip on the story, because I really want some good Wonder Woman, and I would like it if there was a female writer who could really take off with Wonder Woman, because that seems appropriate given her, the feminist origins and that she's been taken up by women's groups at many different times. Then in at that was 8. In at number 7 is Batman's Grave, number 9. This might have been higher, but I read the 2 previous issues just at the same time, and they were dull as dishwasher. A lot of talking, a lot of especially Alfred and Batman talking, detective work kind of stuff, which I had appreciated in the past with Batman's Grave, but it started to just feel like gobbledygook. Like there was no following really what they were talking, what they were detecting about, deducing. And it was just them standing around and talking about things a lot. This issue was much better with a lot of action. all of these, well, I'm not sure where it started, but there's one of these two previous issues has Commissioner Gordon knowingly say, I'm going to step outside while two cops kill a suspected cop killer. And that's kind of a weird Commissioner Gordon to have. And it's maybe understandable that cops want to kill a cop killer so he won't get off. And that's certainly the opposite of what usually happens in the Batman world, where everybody comes back after they go to Arkham Asylum for a while. But on the other hand, police stepping over the line and taking the law into their own hands is really kind of a creepy subject right at the moment, with all the stuff that we see in the news. And the Batman in here is the sort of extreme of the arrogant, I'll do whatever it takes and cause however much damage I need to take care of the bad guy. And I know better than other people on the right way to handle the bad guy. There's a scene where he kind of debates with Gordon about, Gordon says, we know who he is, let's take him in right now. And Batman says, no, we need to wait, I have a whole plan. So and Batman becomes the temporary warden of Arkham Asylum and deals with it by drugging all the inhabitants of Arkham Asylum into a semi-comatose state so they won't bother him while he's busy solving crimes. But it has a really weird vibe, but that's kind of interesting. And it certainly was a great action issue and great art and color by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. So I definitely enjoyed it. And if it didn't have that kind of negative tinge from just having read the very dull preceding two issues, I would have enjoyed it more. It's going to be a bit of a slog because it's coming to an end. It's issue 9 and it's a 12-issue series. It's going to be a big slog in the trade, I would think. It was one that I enjoyed less because I read all three together, I think. Billionaire Island will probably be a very good read in the trade, at least judging so far. This is issue 4. I assume it'll be a story that at least partially wraps up in 6 issues. More wacky hijinks ensue, more jokes on this whole Billionaire Island thing and both the evilness and silliness of the billionaires. It looks like the president of the United States is Kid Rock, which I really liked that touch. So this is in at number 6. I'd say the reason it didn't rank higher was both basically just because some other comics tickled my fancy even more this week, and I was a little less excited about the shtick of making jokes on the billionaires and the wacky hijinks. I just wasn't as much a mood for it. Like the last issue that they introduced the clever idea of Business Dog, who the people on Billionaire Island make their biggest decisions for them. And it just didn't tickle my fancy quite as much. It felt in a sense like the jokes are kind of repeating from previous issues, which again probably won't seem the same in a trade. And I love this cover by Steve Pugh. He is it Steve? I got his first name right. Yep, Steve Pugh. He's a great painter or digital painter. That's a really cool cover with a business dog and 2 poodles cruising around on his motorboat. I have not yet, even though I usually enjoy the short fiction at the back, I just have been kind of rushed, and I didn't read the short fiction at the back of Billionaire Island this time around. I'm definitely happy I'm on Billionaire Island and I'm getting it monthly. Next, at number 5, and this is a book that in a sense is going down, even though number 5 is very good in this week of all good or almost all good reads. But Red Mother is now feeling like it's definitely more of a trade read, maybe, or will it feel repetitive there? it feels like the story is dragging out. And because I'm reading it monthly, I feel like there were revelations last month, but I'm a little vague now on what they were. And it doesn't feel like anything from last month is paying off in this month. Instead, it feels like we're kind of going through a similar, here's little bits of our heroine's life, and little creepy notes of things going on around her, and then at the end, some hint of even more creepy things to come. But will they come next issue? Because they didn't last issue. It seemed the same way. So you see what I mean? But still, it's kind of. That said, it's kind of a delicious horror book with interesting characters, and it is interesting the slow pace it takes and the way it builds up. It's just, I'm getting a little tired of the pattern of it. It needs to break into a different story pattern at this point for me as a monthly reader of it. This was issue 7, and I came in at 5, I believe. Let's see. Now I've got 4 left. Immortal Hulk. And so a lot of the things that came out this week were things that sometimes have made it to the top of my list. Immortal Hulk has often been my number 1 book through its 36-issue run. Not that I've been doing the countdowns that long, but in my head, even before I did the countdowns, it was like a top book of the week often. And this is a good issue, and I think the main problem is I kind of lost the thread. I don't recall what happened at the end of the last issue. And I'm trying to remember, is Rick Jones secretly the leader? Because we haven't had any more about that. And here we have Rick Jones in this grotesque, distorted monster mode. Is he actually the leader as Rick Jones, as this distorted monster? And I don't remember how this happened. They make references to it happening like it happened last issue, and I just couldn't remember. There's some, when our kind of supposed military good guys come in to stop the Hulk, the Gamma Squad, they behave, or there's some reporter trying to tell them, don't escalate the situation. And instead they do escalate the situation. And of course it doesn't go well, choosing to escalate the situation. So a bit of possibly purposeful contemporary commentary. Anyway, it was a fun read. I guess I need to go look back at the last issue. I just don't recall the events that happened there. And a lot of times I like a lot of these Hulk covers, but that one's kind of ugly with the Hulk, I guess, covered in purple blood. I do like the leader back there. So I guess the leader is still part of the story. And then at the end of the story, something else is going on, which I'm not quite sure what. I hope it becomes clear next issue. Anyway, still a very fun book to read. Immortal Hulk is still one of the best horror comics out there also, and best superhero comics. Does it really count as a superhero comic? How many, quote, superhero comics are superhero comics anymore? Then there's Oblivion Song, not at all a superhero comic, but definitely a deep sci-fi comic. And we spend most of, if not all of this issue, still deep in the world of Oblivion and learn a little more about the society of the, I don't know what we call them, the Kraal or something, the Oblivionites, and their relationships, which are truly alien. So very satisfying. Just continues with the problem that I always have with Oblivion Song, is that it's still a little hard to keep track of who's who, and now it's a little hard to keep track of what aliens are who. But incredible art and color, and in many ways a pretty intense story that always manages a good cliffhanger for the next issue. So that came in at number 3. Yeah, I'm quite into Oblivion Song. The next one, my number 2, is definitely a unfair pick of mine. I think Oblivion Song and Hulk and all of that, in a way, were better than Adventure Man, but I wanted the pulpy adventure. I was in the mood for this throwback this book in its weird way of playing with the idea of Doc Savage, essentially. This woman is somehow the reincarnation of Doc Savage, and she has, in this issue, magically grown 15 inches taller, and her hearing has regrown, her damaged ears. And it's the beautiful art of Terry Dodson and inking by his wife. What's his wife's name? Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson. She does a flawless job of inking his work. I don't know what his pencils look like, but she definitely makes it work. And then he did his own coloring, which he does very well. My only objection in terms of the art, but it does distract me a lot, is her facial expressions. I don't know what Dodson is doing. I mean, he's a master artist. He could draw any kind of face he wants, but there's some decision he's made about her face. She always looks like this purposefully tousled model all the time, and she always has an expression like her photographs being taken, if you ask me. And I don't understand it, and it throws me out of the book a little bit. Not that the difference would make this book number one, but there's some plot elements that are becoming a bit confused too, which is again why I probably should have ranked it lower, but I was just tickled by the fun comic. I particularly enjoyed the sort of flashbacks into the pulp story, like into this pirate story where she's suddenly in the pirate story. And then the other sort of pulpy story was this kind of Cthulhu-esque raising of a dark demon by some cultists or something. And that's, I guess, where my lack of clarity was. Were those cultists from a novel and we're just flashing into the novel, or is this in our real world that's going to affect our heroine? It does say something that I don't really remember the heroine. And it's interesting that, yeah, anyway, there's so many fun elements. There goes my microphone. This is true Sleepy Reader style. I'm not going to edit this out or anything. Let's see if the microphone can be stabilized there. Oh, and now we got a nice tilt going on. It is all the fun elements, the characters from the pulp and the characters from her real life that I'm just looking forward to getting more of. And there's no sign that Matt Fraction won't deliver this to me. I'm just a little nervous because of the vagueness there. But another just unique, fun, independent comic. I guess, the truly independent people don't consider things like Image Comics independent, but I do. But I guess they're independent pulp. They're independent fun comics. Lastly, at number one, and this may be a surprise, is Hawkman, which has just been announced as being canceled because of the new regime at DC Comics, where they fired all their top editors and are cutting their line back by at least 25-30%, and I guess having the lower paid assistant editors take over. So we'll see what all that does to DC Comics. But in the meanwhile, we still have a few more issues of Hawkman, and I actually read 5 issues of Hawkman in a row just an hour ago here in my backyard, and it was great. It was balls to the wall, cosmic odyssey kind of stuff, and I just really enjoyed it. It's written by Robert Venditti with several different teams of great widescreen artists this is definitely one of those what's the term, decompressed comics, but this is one where decompression is very satisfying. And the storyline that pretty much wraps up with this issue this is issue number 26, ties all the way back to the first arc in issue 1. I think I read the first 13 issues of Hawkman, then dropped it, then picked up maybe on issue number 20 or 19 or 18 and was able to just go with it. I wouldn't pick up just this issue because it is the finale, but if you can pick up a handful of issues leading up to issue 26. I think it'd be a lot of fun. This also would be a lot of fun if you could get all the trades leading up to this and read them all together. If you like the, as I said, balls to the wall cosmic kind of storylines with reincarnation, gods, different universes, possibly God and the devil, but never stated for clear. So just playing with that concept. So what a wonderful roller coaster ride. And in true kind of pulp serialized comics fashion, the story ends opening up on the next wild twist that will begin another story arc, albeit probably a short story arc. I don't know if with how quickly the cancellations of these comics go, if Robert Venditti had time to adjust his plot. That's my one worry. Robert Venditti is a writer to really watch. He did a great job on, he's great at DC anyway. He did a great job on, what were they called? The Freedom Fighters, and on Hawkman. Those were wonderful. I have, stupid microphone. I have been grabbing up, I think a short run he did on the Justice League. I haven't read those yet. There's also some Digital First comics he's been doing that I've been scooping up and planning to read. So I think reading those 5 Hawkmans really made my comic book week, I have to say. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but for me, like if you're an old-time Jim Starlin fan or that kind of thing, I think it's great work in that vein. And if you like big mythos kinds of stories. But I'd say all of my top 5 or 6 were very solid comics. Not sure why I was a bit grouchy. I guess, yeah, I was a bit grouchy with the ones below, Red Mother and others, but they were still good comics. And so, actually thinking on that Hawkman, I don't know why, but I was just hearing different people on podcasts and stuff give their opinions of what's going on with DC. And it looks like, they're looking at the book market being more important. And maybe one possibility is we'll see more miniseries in the comic book stores just so that there's one and done books and stuff. But the fun of that Hawkman, even if you read it in trades, it's probably 5 trades or 6 trades. No, probably 5 trades. And but so it would be cliffhangers even between the trades. You would have this really fun long read of 4 or 5 trades running to dig into, and but that may not be the way to make a lot of money in publishing. Maybe the books that people can just pick up in one volume might be the way to go. I don't know. I'd love to hear later that the Hawkman sold well in trades and they bring him back quickly. Of course, what they needed to bring him back is with the same writer, Robert Venditti. Anyway, I seem to be babbling, and I'll babble at you again some more very soon. Talk to y'all later.